You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Strong opinions and your phone calls. Expect it here. CBS Sports Radio.
They've done it. Like the 1969 Mets. It's the impossible dream revisited.
And Myers bringing it. And the pitch is hit in the air. Foul off first. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it. It's a base hit. It's a 1-0 victory.
Go field, way back. Blue Jays win it. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions. Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Armchair.
Hey, baseball fans. The Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel is going to bring you the baseball game of the week on Thursday nights. Tones Areola and Mac McGee bringing you the action, the biggest game of the week in all of Major League Baseball. That's Thursday nights. This baseball season, the MLB game of the week, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel.
Knuckles drop, strike three looking. Got him, strike three. Wow, the screwball. Wow. Whoa. What a pitch from Drew. Got him, strike three looking. Oh my God, Dallas. Knuckleball, filthy.
Armchair Quarterback Radio, the gunslingers of sports talk.
And here's second-year quarterback Brett Favre out of Southern Mississippi by way of the Atlanta Falcons. They are hopeful he can succeed in the NFL. Here, Brett Favre, you want a challenge? Try this one. So with their best receiver out of the game, from the 35, 19 seconds left. Ball pumps, goes, touchdown! Is there a spark of life in Green Bay? Touchdown! Yes!
Danny Marino!
Here's Marino, wide open field, goes for a touchdown. It is number 37 on the season, breaks the all-time NFL record.
Going deep and open. Touchdown, Mark Duper. Duper has returned, and he is super.
They are going to bring pressure again. Rodgers is going to roll away, throws it up in the air, says a prayer. And Janice, does he stop it? Oh, please.
Hey, Dad. Why is it customary for a woman to cook in a marriage?
Well, by law, you have to feed the prisoner.
Dang.
Hey, Braves fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel are bringing you Braves baseball all season long. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I'll be bringing you Braves baseball play-by-play for the Braves fans out there, for all of Braves country. So pull up an armchair and join us for Braves country baseball, first pitch to last pitch, Tuesday and Friday nights, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. TGIF on the Armchair Quarterbacks. Justin Waller and Mac McGee are back at it 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern every Friday evening right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel and your local CBS Sports affiliates. We're talking the NFL, Major League Baseball, Southern football, so grab you a cold one. It's finally Friday on the Armchair Quarterbacks, 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. Waller and McGee getting you ready for your sports weekend.
Don't look like this dog. Stop tagging me in this video.
Oh, my mom and my sis.
Thirsty Thursdays, it's the Armchair Quarterback Show. Joey and Tones Areola, Mac McGee, and the rest of the guys dropping by, talking baseball, football, and everything in between. Catch the Armchair Quarterbacks on Thirsty Thursdays, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central.
Sometimes I wonder if I had been given 50 scholarship offers as a junior in high school and walked around the halls of my high school like I was the man, which I would have done. Let's be honest, I would have done that. And then went to that college and had the coach tell me how great I was, and you're going to start right away. Even if you don't deserve to, just politically, we're going to have you start right away.
Right.
And then let's say I'd been a first round pick and everyone told me how great it was. I just wonder would I have ever made it. I don't think I would have. I think I would have been too immature. I would have bought into the lies or the hype too quickly and too early. And I don't know that I would have made to the next step.
Deshaun Watson? Yeah, I guess if 22 women allege misconduct, the punishment is you have to play for Cleveland. So.
Sure.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
But what the hell, boy?
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Good enough for us down here in the Bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Good Armchair.
YouTube Live,
CBS Sports
Radio station. The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station? It's everything.
I like everything.
Do you know what listeners like about our station? It's everything.
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays on CBS Radio, YouTube Live, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Good afternoon, Mr. Joey Ariola.
Good afternoon, Mac. I don't know much, but I know one thing. The Tua to Tyreek Hill joke videos online and with the terrible passes like the Tim Tebow have been dying laughing the last 24 hours over here for me.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Hey, howdy, hi, and top of the afternoon to you. How the hell are you, my friends? We are ready for Sweet 16 basketball. How you doing, Mr. Tones Ariola?
I'm doing great. It's a great day of sports. We got March Madness. We got MLB, NFL free agency to talk about, and some of our top moments in sports. I'll tell you what, fellas, looking forward to this one a lot.
Yeah, I am too. Joey, how are you, my friend?
I'm excited. I feel like the batteries are rejuvenated. We're getting into a good run here. Baseball's on the way. Let's go.
I apologize. I had my mic all the way down. I was doing some editing today, and I didn't want to accidentally catch myself, and had everything going, made sure all this was going and this is going, and then just it's the little knob, just the little thing. When in doubt, turn the damn thing on, right? All right, well, let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing we want to do is hit off with batting practice, and there was big news that came out of New York City today, and for people who missed it, essentially, there has been a mandate lifted in New York City, and it was not lifted for all. It has only been lifted for the entertainers, athletes, people on Broadway, et cetera, et cetera. And I've got mixed emotions about this because, A, yeah, I'm a big sports fan, and I'm glad to see that anyone that can play will be able to play, but B, I really have some mixed emotions about it because the crux of the whole thing is firefighters, nurses, police officers. There's still many, many people out there who do not have jobs. So I'm a little torn on the fact that if a guy's dribbling a ball or catching a ball or throwing a ball, he or she can draw a paycheck, but someone who's doing an actual service for their community cannot draw a paycheck. And I don't understand the damn difference. The only thing I can almost get on board with is that if you work in a hospital and you don't want to take the shot, the vaccine, that one I can almost understand. Okay. But a police officer, a firefighter, et cetera, what is the damn difference between that and someone who's out there playing basketball? Because it's not like Kyrie Irving wasn't allowed to go into the damn building. He sat there on the bench without a mask right behind his teammates and watched games. He just wasn't allowed to participate. And I'm going to call this the Met rule, because New York Mets, for people that missed it, their owner, Steve Cohen, donated $1.5 million about 2 or 3 days ago to the New York City mayor's campaign fund. It's been reported as 1.5 million. And all of a sudden, just a few days later, bam, there you go. And Boomer Esiason actually alluded to this on Monday or Tuesday on his show, because he was in the know, because he's, in a tight-knit group there in New York City. He just couldn't talk about it. He said, let's just wait till Thursday and I can talk more about it. Well, the news actually broke last night. So I'll give the floor to you. Tones, let's start with you. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting situation that's really caused a crux in some sports that we've seen. I mean, Kyrie hasn't been able to play in the games, but he's been allowed in the buildings in the games. To me, that's a little crazy. If you allow him in the buildings, you might as well allow him to play from the start. Now, like you say, a donation's made and all of a sudden they're going to lift the mandate. To me, something's a little shady about that, although I think that should have been the overall ruling to begin with. Although, I recommend getting vaccinated. I'm not going to say everyone should get vaccinated, because there's reasons why people don't. And, it is what it is. If that's your belief, whatever. But I don't think these rules should have been in place to begin with, but they were for New York. And now all of a sudden you get a big donation and the dang rule is lifted. It kind of seems a little fishy to me, a little circumstantial to me, with baseball season right around the corner.
I mean, it's politics. When it all comes down to it's politics. And look, I've been on record. I've gotten the vaccine. I got the booster. I don't know if I'll get the second, a third shot, a second booster, because it looks like it's going away essentially. But I might. I don't know. I haven't had any reactions to it, so it's not like I'm opposed to it. I don't know if I'll just be lazy about it. Joey, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, to start things, COVID rules never really. I mean, it's like at first with restaurants, you could go in, you need, your mask on, then you get to your table. You don't. I never really got the rules to begin with. It's like the basketball thing when you could be in the stadium and not be there. I see your point greatly with all the workers. Let's have the same rules going forward for everybody. And you mentioned the Mets and donation. One thing I kind of want to bring up too, that mayor of New York's probably walking around and. The Yankees are a big spot in that town, more than even their football teams, because they never seem to do things right. And you tell me the mayor's got to walk in every place in his team, and hey, the Yankees going to be ready to go. Is Aaron Judge? Is Anthony Rizzo? I mean, there's a lot of pressure from Mets ownership, like you said, and I think just the Yankees' big following, them being the pride and joy of that city. So. Interesting timing. Let's just make it even for everybody. I don't get why certain things are one way and another. It just quite makes no sense.
Well, to add to it, Adams is on record being a Mets fan as well. So, and look, I'm not killing the Mets fan base, because this has nothing to do with them. It realistically, it's a good investment for the owner, right? But once again, why is it only they get the damn mandate lifted? Why wouldn't you lift it for all? And it really is strange timing. And no matter what people try to tell you, because I listen to some New York shows, and a lot of them think that the basketball is king to so to speak in that city, because they really don't know what they're talking about. this just shows you baseball's king, because we're 2 weeks away from opening day, and all of a sudden COVID's not a thing, right? It was a thing all during the NBA season and NHL season. And it didn't realistically matter to the NFL when the playoffs hit. A, New York didn't make the playoffs on either side. And B, they lifted all restrictions, meaning they weren't checking to see if you had not just the booster, but also the original COVID shot. So this just shows you baseball's king in that city, that one guy can generate $1.5 million, which is pocket change to Stephen Cohen. He's one of the richest men in America. And all this, because look, the guy has put in, what's his payroll going to be like? Close to $300 million this year.
Yeah, something like that.
That's before arbitration. It may actually skyrocket over it. This just tells you how much power that baseball has in that town. And it's across the board. It's sad. It really is sad. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on. We're going to go ahead and do today what we've been wanting to do for all, because look, the MLB and NFL free agency, their free agent seasons essentially hit almost the same day. Like, it was only a few days apart, right? So I thought it would be interesting to take 5 NFL teams, take 5 MLB teams, okay? And we're going to rank our top 10. Each of us are going to rank our top 10. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to put any certain baseball or team or football teams in order. You don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to do that, but you could have 5 baseball teams. You could have 5 football teams. We're basically saying who had the best free agent / off season. Because I'm going to even allow when you talk about trades, because you got to, because it's essentially all balled into free agency, right? Because if you make a trade, you don't need this guy, that kind of thing. So we're going to go through it 10, count all the way up to 1. We're each going to take our turns doing number 10, and then we'll go back around to number 9. So we'll start this off. Joey, I'll start with you, sir. Who is your number 10 in all the land?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with the LA Chargers. I think they've really done a phenomenal job of adding pieces. They have the offensive weapons there. They re-signed Mike Williams. They keep that intact. Herbert on the rookie deal allows them to get a guy like Khalil Mack on the defensive and JC Jackson in the defensive backfield. I think if even they could add possibly one more move, I think they could, be the best in this division. Pretty with other great teams there. I just think they've done a great job. The defense they knew was weak, and they made changes where needed with the trade for a big time pass rusher. Because what do you need in this league? Throw the ball and get the pass rush.
All right, so you got them at number 10.
Yep.
Interesting. They didn't make my list, but they came damn close. Like there were a couple of NFL teams and a couple of baseball teams. I was like, man,
it was hard.
20 deep in this thing.
Yes, sir.
Interesting to see. Tones, where are you at?
Yeah, I felt like I agree with you guys. It was very hard. Right when I thought I had my list, I could have sworn I could add another couple teams to it. But number 10, I'm going to go with my hometown team here, season ticket holder for the first time, Chicago Cubs. They made one big splash on in hitting. They made one big splash in pitching. They got Marcus Stroman. They got Wade Miley. They got Drew Smyly to add to their starting rotation. So they really beefed that up. Then the bullpen, you got the cavalry coming. You got Micah Givens. You got Jesse Chavez. You got David Robertson, Robert Gesselman, Chris Martin, Daniel Norris. Couple of ex-Braves champions in there between Chavez and, Chris Martin. So I like those. Then the Cubs go out and add... Yep. Then they get
Jan. The Braves won the World Series in spite of Smiley, not because of Smiley.
Hey, well, we're not mentioning Smiley for a reason.
I remember man complaining about him last year.
Chris Martin too, for that matter. But I felt like his midseason injury, he never really came back, and they tried to use him a little bit in the playoffs, but they really leaned on the left-handers. But he wasn't god awful. Like I don't hate that signing at all.
Yeah, I'm a fan because the potential of the signing, and at the end of the day, the Braves liked him, so they got him. But Yan Gomes was a big one, so it could give Wilson Contreras more days in the lineup.
He is solid. Did you see the report, by the way, y'all, that there were serious talks with the Cubs on a couple of teams of actually trying to trade for Wilson Contreras this offseason? What eventually happened was the Cubs just wanted too much, so the teams balked at it. But I found that very interesting. Trying to remember the teams. I think the Giants were one of them, which makes sense because Posey just retired, even though they do have the rookie coming up. And the other team was from the West Coast too. I can't remember who it was. But I found that very interesting. That would even be a conversation.
I could see the Angels maybe, but yeah, I was hoping the Cubs could lock him up to long term.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that lineup if you had Contreras to it?
Filthy. But I like the Yan Gomes ad because it could give Willie time at DH. Nick Madrigal will be playing this year. We got him from the Sox. Jonathan VR and Dralton Simmons, Clint Frazier, Harold Ramirez, Saya Suzuki. It's a lot of names, and to me, it's a lot of good potential. And
I love the Suzuki signing. I didn't put the Cubs on my list, but it was really hard for me to leave them off my list because when I came down to the 5 baseball teams, the Cubs were basically number 6 on my list.
And the nice thing about the Cubs is if they're not playing great ball, you can move a lot of the okay pieces you sign, like bullpen arms for, future young guys too. So it's a win-win situation.
Okay, my number 10 team, I went homer with this because I feel like as much movement as they did, I would be remiss if I did not essentially have them on the list. So I went with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were, look, I know a lot of people are killing them for the money that they spent on a couple of players like Christian Kirk and whatnot. But first of all, they were aggressive. We have not seen that in Jacksonville free agency yet. So I love the aggressiveness. And they got a couple of players that look okay. Zay Jones, they didn't spend an exorbitant amount of money. I think is it 3 years, 24. It has a max value of 30. Okay. Christian Kirk, he's a solid player. He's 4 years, 72 million. He's right in his prime. You're probably going to get 3-4 solid years. A guy that can stretch the field, help you move the sticks. The Evan Ingram, look, I know he's had his ups and downs in New York, but you can't deny the talent. And it was a 1-year deal. So like, you're not really losing anything. I did not like the franchise tag that they put on Cam Robinson. So that's why I pushed him down. But Brandon Scherf, that was a great signing. I even liked a couple of the other ones. The linebacker from the Falcons, the Darius Williams sign. I thought that they got a lot of depth, and they should be much more. They're not going to be a rollover this year. You're not going to see the Jaguars on your schedule, and the first thing you're going to go, that's an easy W. This year, you're going to have to actually pay attention, right? So, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but hopefully they make a move from what they did this year in the new Doug Peterson era, and maybe get 5, 6, 7 wins and threaten to stay on the outside looking into the playoffs.
I think that was a good one.
Joey, what is your number 10? 9, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and real quick, I actually liked Ingram. I wanted him to come to Indy on a short deal, so I agree with that as well. I'm going to go to baseball on this side this time for myself, and I'm going at the Philadelphia Phillies. To me, they added 2 big bats to their lineup that already had some good bats in there. Obviously, we all know Bryce Harper, but when you add a Nick Castellanos and a Kyle Schwarber, I think you're going to have a lot of pop in that lineup based off history. The home runs and RBIs should be massive. And they really needed this. The Phillies kind of been stuck in a little bit of a lull ever since their couple back-to-back World Series appearances. And I just think they needed to bolster something. We all know they made that big Bryce Harper signing a couple years ago. And Nationals won a World Series and they have not. So now's their time. If you could stack Castellanos, Harper, JT Realmuto, Gene Segura, all these guys, Didi Gregorius, you can go on and on. I think to go along with a, I'm not going to say overwhelming pitching set, but a pretty decent one. I think the Philadelphia Phillies will make some noise this year, especially with the big bats.
All right. So you got Phillies number 9. Tones, what you got?
And number 9, I got the Detroit Tigers in the AL, and I mentioned it on last week's show that I was a big fan of their off-season moves. This stems back to 2 off seasons ago, them landing AJ Hinch. I think he's a phenomenal manager. They got a great young core, and they're adding to that with these good veterans splashed in. Eduardo Rodriguez to head their pitching staff with some young arms. They signed Michael Pineda to help out with their starting rotation. They got Andrew Chafin, who's a heck of a bullpen arm. Tucker Barnhart is a very good offensive catcher. And Javier Baez is a very electric player, something that the Tigers lacked. They needed excitement. Javier Baez helps bring that excitement. They needed starting pitchers. Rodriguez and Pineda help shore that up. And the AL Central, a little weak. The White Sox, if they show signs of frailing or flaking at all, to me, the Tigers are the team that might be the sleeper in that division. I don't see much promise elsewhere. I like Detroit and the moves they're making, not only for this year, but for their future as well.
All right, I'm gonna stay in state once again and take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel like I had to have them on this list. I know a lot of the quote unquote free agents, they're just re-signings, but look, when you do things like you bring back Fournette, you bring back your receiving core. We don't quite know yet about Gronk, right? But I feel like if Gronk is going to play, he's going to come back to Tampa. He may take a more lucrative deal to go play with Burrow in Cincinnati, but I feel like he'll stick it out one more year with Brady. And then the big thing is they get Brady back, and there is no bigger thing for the NFL than getting another year out of Tom Brady. Who knows where he'll be at going into age 45? We don't know, look, we all know that Father Time is undefeated, but we also know that Tom Brady's not human. So bringing him back, bringing the players that they lost a few pieces, but I thought all in all, they brought back enough to be able to make a Super Bowl run. Joey, what do you got at number 8?
Yeah, a little bit of a homer pick here, of course, but I'm actually going to say my Colts, and for 2 big main reasons. Number 1, we were able to get out of the Wentz deal and get 2 third-round picks in return. So right off the bat, a situation that we didn't think we'd be able to get any return for, we did. And on top of that, as we all know, in the past few days, past week, we made the trade for Matt Ryan and knocked down his contract pretty considerably to have extra cap space through him. I think you add in a 14-time player who's had an MVP award. Everyone talks about the AFC, the Colts and the Titans might not match up against the rest. Well, guess what? They're in the AFC South. So one of these 2 teams are going to have a division win, and one of them are going to have a home game. Last year, the Titans were the whole number 1 seed. If it weren't for Ryan Tannehill's mistakes, they would have easily gone on to the championship game. That being said, I now think Matt Ryan will be the best QB in the division. The Titans and Colts should be neck and neck this year. And whoever comes out on top gets a home game against one of these other AFC powerhouses. And they also added Yannick Ngakoue at pass rush. I think that was a big deal as the Colts pass rush lacked last year. So between Matt Ryan and Yannick, you got to pass the ball and get to the quarterback. So I like that for them.
I still think the best quarterback in the division is in Nashville. And he's nothing to write home about, but I really still think that Matt Ryan has seen the better days, but we'll see.
It's possible. Phillip Rivers had a resurgence, but you never know.
The one thing that I'll say for it in his, I'm not going to say his defense, I'm not really attacking him, but what you can look at the bright side of it is he's coming from a team that was constantly behind, and now he should just be handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor and be able to do some play action. So he should benefit for sure. I think Tannehill's still a notch above him, but you don't have to worry about the bonehead mistake that Tannehill's bound to happen.
And by the end of the year, Trevor Lawrence could be the best one. You never know. I mean, Trevor Lawrence could pop this year. If year 2 rookies, number 1 picks, you usually see in year 2. Now he does have a different coach and offensive system, but I could see Trevor Lawrence pop this year.
I mean, the way that division goes, they could all be so bad that the best quarterback resides in Houston. I mean, let's be honest.
Tones' guy.
Because I thought the kid looked pretty good last year.
He did.
The rookie out of California. And look, this is the last year of Tannehill. So it's a put up or shut up time because they're going to draft somebody. Whether they draft someone high or not, that's a question mark. Tones, who you got?
I think Joe might have been looking at my list because 8, I got the Indianapolis Colts as well. Being a Bucs fan, I see Matt Ryan twice a year. He threw for 300 yards each game against the Bucs, and he looked pretty efficient at some points in times. And keep in mind, that's without Calvin Ridley for most of last year. That's without Julio Jones as he left. So not a lot of weapons to work with as Hayden Hurst was in and out as well. Matt Ryan, I think, will be a huge upgrade. He had 4 game-winning drives last year. Carson Wentz had 0 game-winning drives last year. Matt Ryan is that fourth quarter factor that Carson Wentz didn't bring to the table. The Yannick Ngakoue move was terrific as well. He'll help get after the quarterback. Lately, the Colts have been going, sorry, Joe, in my opinion, the over-the-hill pass rushers that really haven't paid dividends much in Indianapolis. This time they get a guy who's in his prime. Obviously, he's wanted by many playoff teams as the Raiders, Ravens, and Vikings all attempted to get him within the past several years. They were all successful here. The Colts are able to get Yannick Ngakoue coming off a 10-sack season with a lot of pressures. And then they get Brandon Facyson, too, from the Las Vegas Raiders, who played with Gus Bradley last year, and he's actually slated to start at cornerback for them right now. So close to the playoffs in 2021, 0 Carson Wentz comebacks, and Matt Ryan will put him over the top, I really believe. And Gus Bradley's a huge addition as well to that defensive staff. And you had to think he helped recruit Yannick Ngakoue here and Brandon Facyson. And those are 2 guys who are going to both be impactful starters for the Indianapolis Colts.
What's the biggest move that they made for both y'all? If there's one move you say that's the biggest move that they made.
I'd say the biggest move that the Colts made was turning Carson Wentz into draft picks and Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan. I mean, we were almost between Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston, and at least we ended up someone who's been there, done that. Like you said, could it keep falling off? Maybe, but I think the resurgence happens. It's up for debate.
I will say, though, Yannick is just as big, in my opinion, because the Colts were missing that it factor on the defensive line last year besides DeForest Buckner, and I think Yannick Ngakoue brings just that.
Yeah, I tend to think the Ngakoue move is the biggest one. Okay, it was a pretty good deal, given a Rockison.
What'd you think about him in Jacksonville?
He was a beast. Now he was a part of an incredibly talented defense.
Correct.
So it's hard to pick apart one player on such a great unit, but he was an absolute beast, and we hated to see him go. And so that entire defense, I mean, the entire NFL is littered with ex-Jacksonville defenders. I mean, it is absolute ridiculousness. But yeah, so I'm going with my number 8 team is the Bills, the Buffalo Bills. No one circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. And I believe that they have had one heck of an off season. When you look at the moves that they've made, Case Keenum, Matt Barkley. No, I'm joking. Jamison Crowder, I'm interested to see what he does there. The OJ Howard signing to me was very, very interesting. But what really has gotten my attention is what they've done on the defensive side. Shaq Lawson, Von Miller, even guys like, Settle and Phillips. I think this defense is going to be much, much better. And that's really what they're missing. And something else that made the Buffalo Bills very, very a huge move in the free agency and a trade season that have made the Bills so much better. The Kansas City Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill, and that's going to make the Chiefs a hell of a lot easier to beat. A hell of a lot easier to beat. Remember, he was pretty much the reason why they went down and scored that last, him and Kelsey. And I get it that they signed Schuster, and I get it that they will probably draft a receiver. Tyreek Hills don't grow on trees. And so I was a little shocked that they traded him. I've always felt like for the last couple of years, him and Adams are the 2 best receivers in football, and it's not even close. They've got different skill sets, but they're the best 2. And losing him, I know he goes to your division. There's a big difference between having to worry about Tyreek Hill getting open with Tua throwing freaking, dead ducks out there and worrying about Patrick Mahomes beating you deep. So I thought it was an incredible move. And it was a good move by the Dolphins, but now they've got to go get a real quarterback. So what's your number 7, Joey?
And I'm still laughing. I know you saw it on Twitter. You posted the Tim Tebow one, just absolutely had me dying laughing at too. But going on to number 7, I'm going to go with in the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays. And, boy, you had Matt Chapman to that lineup that has these young guys like Biggio, Guerrero Jr. I mean, we could sit here and literally go through the move they made last year, George Springer, Bo Bichette. I mean, it goes on and on. On top of that, they added a couple of starters, which they needed to bolster their rotation. Gausman, Barrios, Hyun-Jin Ryu. I really like that top 3. You had Kikuchi on the back end. I just feel like this team's poised to make a big run. And, it seems that they got these young players still on these lower deals to get into their prime. They spent the money on a couple of holes they felt they needed to be had. And Ben, all the lineups in the AL East will be awesome to watch, but I think the Blue Jays especially, I like the young bloods there, and I can see them making a lot of noise in the American League East next season.
All right. What say you, Tones?
Yeah, Mr. McGee, I got your Atlanta Braves at number 7, although they lost Freddie Freeman. They did as great as a job replacing him as they can. They moved quickly to get Matt Olson, who had tremendous numbers last year, and they locked up Matt Olson right away. They wasted no time with that. So they lose Freddie Freeman, sure, but they replace him with a young, phenomenal ball player in Matt Olson, and he's a great human being as well. Then their bullpen adds. I mean, sure, they lose the guys like Perez and Chavez and Martin and Chavez. I'm sorry, not Perez, but then they get a guy like Colin McHugh. He was in Tampa last year, had an electric season, 1.55 ERA, 0.94 whip, incredible bullpen arm. They get Kenley Jansen, still a phenomenal closer, had about a 2.2 ERA last year with a boatload of saves, and his stuff is still electric to the tune of 86 strikeouts last season as well. So great grabs all around there. They address their backup catcher position, which they lacked most of last year. They get Manny Pena from the Brewers. He had 13 homers as a catcher who didn't play every day last year. That's phenomenal home run power for a backup catcher. Then they had
and honestly, he's just being brought in to make sure that Travis d'Arnaud can play a full season.
Exactly. So the hope is,
don't forget they got Wilson Contreras' younger brother, William Contreras, coming up in the minors.
I like him as well. So they got
he's
a good
terrible on defense right now. They're trying to work on it, but I mean, he's stone hands back there.
Yeah, I remember that. That's why I think they sent him down at one point last year. But then the thing you love most, Eddie Rosario's back. You get Marcelo Zuna back as well. He was gone last year, so getting that bat back. You get Acuna back at some point from injury. So you're getting Ozuna, Acuna, Rosario back. And let's be honest, championship teams usually go through a lot of heartfelt changes every offseason. Sure, Freddie Freeman's gone, but you take out Freeman, you're adding Olsen, Ozuna, and Acuna back. So to me, the Braves lineup improves, as crazy as that sounds, because you're getting these guys back from injury. And I think they did a great job of keeping most of the band together.
All right, my number 7 is the New York Mets. The New York Mets, I thought they had a good offseason. I think it's been a little overblown by the media because they're in New York, so it's always going to be. But when you add Max Scherzer, now the one thing that worries me about Max Scherzer, remember at the end of the baseball season in the NLCS, he couldn't pitch because of dead arm. Now, granted, they overused him down the stretch, and I felt like it was totally mismanaged, and I expect Dave Roberts to do those same kinds of things going forward. But 37, 38-year-old pitcher that you just gave $150 million for 3 years to, who had a dead arm last year, that worries me. But I'm going to assume that Scherzer's going to be okay. So you got Scherzer, you adding Starling Marte, but that dude has been battling a freaking oblique injury all spring. I don't even think he's taken a swing off the tee yet. And then you did get Mark Canha, but he's a power guy that you want coming off the bench. You don't want him starting, and he hits for a low average. But I thought all in all, adding Eduardo Escobar, Chris Bassett is a very, very good number 3. He would be a number 2 on most staffs. He would be a number 1 if your staff stunk, but he's a very good pitcher. But he has had injuries. So the problem with the Mets, to me, reason why I don't have him up higher, they have a guy that's littered with they have guys that are littered with injury problems. We got to speed this up. Joey, what is your number 6?
I'll keep it short and sweet, but tell you why. The Las Vegas Raiders, I love, they got to keep up in a division with many Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. How do you do that? You add a top pass rusher in Chandler Jones, on the other side of Matt Crosby, watch out. And then what do they do on top of that? McDaniel says, I need to get another weapon in here to go with Renfro. You had an opposite weapon, Devontae Adams, huge bolster there. I think the Raiders have a lot of going on talent-wise, and they're not going to, just put up a puncher's chance. They're going to be in this division. So I'm going to give it to the Las Vegas Raiders.
All right, Tones, what is your number 6?
I'll stick in the division. I like the Denver Broncos. They were close to being a playoff team last year. They got Russell Wilson, the best quarterback available on the market this offseason. They got Randy Gregory, a feared pass rusher. They addressed their backup quarterback by getting Josh Johnson. Then they signed a good slot corner in Quan Williams, brought back Josie Jewell in a very tough division this year and a team that was really built well last year. Now you got Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb attacking the quarterback. That's one of the best dynamic duos in football, getting after it. You got Russell Wilson throw to Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, and the rest of those good wide receivers. So it's going to be really fun to watch Denver Broncos compete in that strong division this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there.
I'm going to go number 6 with the snack cake that can last 100 years. Give me the Twinkies. Give me the Minnesota Twins at number 6. I thought what they did in the offseason, they were playing chess while the New York Yankees were playing checkers. They moved Josh Donaldson in his terrible contract to the Bronx so they could afford to bring in Carlos Correa. And I get it. Carlos Correa could declare to be a free agent. I totally get that. But who cares? That just means he's going to be motivated to play this year. And so maybe he opts out, and I think he will. Maybe he opts out and signs somewhere else next year. That's fine. You're going to add Carlos Correa. I believe that they have bolstered a lot of things. Joe Smith was a very, very good signing. Dylan Bundy adding to their starting rotation. And hopefully just having a healthy Byron Buxton, this team is a team that I think can honestly make moves and be able to contend in an AL Central. I'm not gonna say it's up for grabs because the White Sox are going to be really good this year. But the White Sox, it's not like they're the 1990s New York Yankees. The wheels could fall off the bus, right? And if so, I think Minnesota's going to be right there. Joey, what say you on number 5?
Yeah, and I almost hesitated to put him in here because I still don't like their roster, but I'm going to bring up the Texas Rangers. I'm just being honest with you. I think they went from a really bad team to at least relevant on the map. You sign guys like Seager and Simeon. At least you get a name, you get jersey you want the fans to buy with Seager. They didn't really have a lot to, in my opinion, really build off there that has a lot of stature and presence right now that's just dominating. They've been going through some walls. They also got John Gray, but let's be honest, I'm not going to sit here and it's a nice name, but let's see what he's got left in the tank is he'll be in front of a rotation that struggles, but it's about name recognition with these two signings. I do think Simeon, from what he did last year, he's really taken some strides. And Corey Seager, he should be in the prime of his career. So Rangers, I'm not saying you're a contender, but you were put on the map this offseason with a few big splashes. Kudos.
All right, Tones, what say you?
Yeah, Joey alluded to them earlier. I got the Phillies on my list. Their bullpen arms they added have been phenomenal. They got Jerois Familia, Corey Knebel, and Brad Hand to shore up the back end of that bullpen. So that's really good there. Then they got Nick Castellanos, who was at one point considered NL MVP candidate before injury last year, just phenomenal player there. Really wish the Cubs never got rid of him. Kyle Schwarber, another ex-Cub who's doing beautiful things. That lineup is going to be Fairfull, Real Muto, Hoskins, Schwarber, Harper, Castellanos. I mean, good luck facing the Phillies on any given night. I like what the Phillies did, and I like the Castellanos and Schwarber signings a lot, but you can't forget about Brad Hand, Corey Knebel, and Jerois Familia, because they had problems closing out ball games this year. Now they get 3 guys who've been all-star closers in the past to probably help them shut the door this year.
Now, as opposed to losing every game 11-5, they'll lose it 11-8, right? or maybe 9-8. They've improved the bullpen a little bit. I still think that starting pitching's just terrible. Outside Zach Wheeler, it is an awful starting rotation. But yeah, I do like their moves. My biggest question when they sign these guys is it didn't seem like that they took into consideration the fact of any of their defensive metrics, right? So you've added some bats, but that defense was already at the bottom of the league last year, and you're going to put Castellanos out and left. Sometimes you'll put Schwarber out there. Reese Hoskins is terrible at defense. You basically have Bryce Harper is going to have – I know they've got him playing right, but he's almost going to have to play like a rover position out there because he's the only decent defensive outfielder that they have. My number 5 is going to be the Cleveland Browns, and I will put an asterisk on that because if Deshaun Watson gets suspended for like 12 games, this is going to not look like this great signing. But even if he gets suspended for 6 or 8 games, they've got him long term. Mm-hmm. Now his new contract's going to be an issue, and I know it pissed off a lot of people in the NFL the way that they did their contract. I don't know if y'all saw it, the way it breaks down, but essentially the whole damn thing's a signing bonus.
Unbelievable.
Right? And so it's all guaranteed, and that's why he decided to go there over Atlanta, was because he wanted to go where he could get guaranteed money because he's going to get it up front, and then if they decide to suspend him, it's going to be like one of the 40 million that he's going to make this year. 1 million of it is going to be able to be taken away. So I think the NFL will end up doing something more and end up fining him, but we'll see what happens there. But pushing that back because that basically just broke the glass ceiling, right?
Yep.
NFL contracts have never been guaranteed, and this could be the one that breaks the glass ceiling. And you don't hate it for the players, you just hate it that that's the player that did it.
Yeah.
Because of all the jackasses in the world. But I got to give them the Cleveland Browns because they did add him, and look, even if you're just looking for a fantasy aspect, they added Amari Cooper, and that should be a much more fun team to watch. And I'll be interested to see what they get, if they get anything, but if they were able to move Mayfield in a trade, what they get back off of that. And I think it would just be draft picks, but he's still going somewhere. Mm-hmm. And folks are poo-pooing on it, but is it out of the realm of possibility that he goes to the Miami Dolphins? Wouldn't it be a much sexier team to watch if you had Baker Mayfield instead of Tua over there hitting the broadside of a barn, throwing lame ducks and interceptions and can't hardly see over the line? I would try to get a 3-team trade involved where Tua goes this way, Mayfield goes that way, and the Browns get picks. That's what I would do if I were the Miami Dolphins. And I talked to Steven about this off air, and he laughed at it. I'm like, whatever, man. Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than a Tua Tagovailoa is. 99 days out of 98, he's a better quarterback. What is your number 4, Joey?
Number 4, a team that was brought up once. I'll bring up now again, the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson. I mean, this team is pretty much a quarterback away. They had Drew Lock last year, Teddy Bridgewater. Nothing really worked out. I also think the Randy Gregory, even though we've had a few players pull some interesting moves this offseason, that was another big piece for them on the defensive side. You put him and Bradley Chubb, who, watch out. It's always, as I said with the Chargers, I said with the Raiders, and then now the Broncos, it's all about getting to the quarterback and having the quarterback. And the Broncos, I mean, the weapons they have, now they finally have someone who could throw it to them. I see big things for Denver this season.
All right, Tones.
For number 4, I got the Buffalo Bills. I like that they added Duke Johnson as a pass catching back. Dawson Knox and OJ Howard should be a phenomenal tight end tandem. Jamison Crowder there. That's a perfect Cole Beasley replacement. Backup quarterback takes a big deal in Pittsburgh. It's all right. We'll trade for Case Keenum and bring in Matt Barkley. Roger Saffold, they brought in Jordan Phillips, welcome back home after a few years gone. Tim Settle, welcome in. Von Miller, boom. Buffalo is officially all chips in. They are going to their fan base and saying, hey, buy into us 100%. I know we're close. We're going to try and get over the hump this year. And I mean, that team is poised for a really good run with all those moves. And I'm really excited to see what Duke Johnson could do out of that backfield after we've seen him show spurts in Miami at the end of last season. I think Josh Allen and Duke Johnson will be fun, and it'll be interesting to see if Roger Saffold has anything left in the tank. He signed a big deal after getting released by the Titans. We'll see if he could provide dividends for the Buffalo Bills. I'm going with the Bills. They are all chips in, and my favorite for the 3rd year in a row to win the AFC.
Well, maybe one of these years you'll be right there, Berman. Just pick them in the 49ers in the Super Bowl. One of these years you might be right. I'm going to go with the Texas Rangers at number 4. I do believe that they changed their lineup quite a bit. And look, Correa leaving the American League West, that made the Rangers much better off the jump.
Yep.
So I like what Texas is doing. And look, they signed the 2 big sticks, Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. That's going to make a big time difference in their offense. And watch out for John Gray. John Gray is going to finally leave Colorado and go pitch in what is being looked upon as somewhat of a pitcher's park in Texas. John Gray's got good stuff. Brandon Workman was a very good acquisition. I like the Martin Perez signing. Matt Moore's a bum. He's seen better days. He'll probably come out of the bullpen. But Brad Miller was a solid signing. Garrett Richards. I like what Texas is doing, and I think they'll compete. Joey, what you got at number 3?
Yeah, a team you mentioned earlier, so I don't have to talk too much on them, Mac, the New York Mets. It looks good on paper. Like you said, there's injuries and things, what have you, between Marte, Scherzer. We'll see Eduardo Escobar. They signed, they got in their pitching staff, Chris Bassett, too. I just like what they've done. It's a lot of names. They gave a lot of big money on the way. They also added Mark Canha. So they have good things on the board. But, you have guys in your lineup like Lindor, Cano, injury riddled. Alonso seems to be the only stable force. We'll see him and DeGrom. You bring all these pieces together. It seems like success, but they got to stay healthy this season, as we all know, because usually the Mets find a way to falter. But for now, they're my number 3.
All right, Tones, what say you, number 3?
I'm going with the Miami Dolphins at number 3, and I actually really like the Mike McDaniel hire. I think he could be one of those young head coaches who pays dividends. He always had 49ers running backs looking like miracles out there, no matter the name you sub in. Tyreek Hill, I think that was.
Have y'all heard him speak yet? I know we talked about this recently. Have y'all heard him speak yet?
Yeah, he sounds hilarious. He sounds like Shrek almost.
I'm gonna have to get the audio for it.
I think he's always on the cheese gas. He's on.
He's huffing paint or something. There's something going on there.
Tyreek Hill already said he's the funniest coach he ever had today, and he's known him for a day. He said he sounds
as they were splitting a blunt, signing the deal.
Doobies in the sky.
Doesn't sound like a bad team to be a part of, but the Miami Dolphins, I like the Mike McDaniel, and I think the Tyreek Hill trade is good for both teams. Chiefs get all those picks. Dolphins get a playmaker. Cedric Wilson addition can't be slept on. Teron Armstead, one of the best tackles in football, welcome. Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, 2 good running backs who could help out there. Trent Sherfield, more wide receiver depth. They got Connor Williams to solidify that O-line. Alec Ingold at fullback. And they retained Emmanuel Ogbah, who's one of those guys who gets after the quarterback, gets pressures. He's a good tackle machine. Watch out for the Miami Dolphins this year. It lies on Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not like many out there. I actually think he could succeed and be successful, and we'll see. I mean, if not this year, then it's never for the guy. So we'll see.
Okay, moving on. Atlanta Braves, I've got them at number 3. I honestly think that they could end up number 1, but I was trying to be somewhat unbiased with this. Look, Kenley Jansen's been one of the best closers in baseball for the last decade. They get him. They bring back the NLCS MVP in Rosario. They bring in Colin McHugh, who's one of the best right-handed relief pitchers since 2018. The only right-handed relief pitcher who's got better numbers than Colin McHugh since 2018 is Kirby Yates. By the way, the Braves signed Kirby Yates back in November. Now he's coming off of injury. We'll see what he's got. So he probably won't be until about around the All-Star break, but that's going to be a nasty bullpen. They brought back Darren O'Day. He was a big fan favorite. And look, he had a 3.38 ERA last year. The big move, though, bringing in Matt Olson. I know a lot of Braves fans don't want to hear it. He's an upgrade. He's an upgrade from Freddie Freeman. We loved Freddie Freeman because of who he was, and he was always a great player. He won a bubble MVP, but he never won the MVP like a full MVP. So you got to take that into consideration. This is a guy that got paid a big contract, but never won a legitimate MVP. I think everything that happened in that season, there's always going to be an asterisk on, right? They went out and got a kid that's from the area, signed him to a 9-year deal, essentially. And I think he's going to look, he had 8 more home runs than Freddie. This is the big number, 28 more RBIs than Freddie Freeman last year. And they played about the same amount of games, 28. And his WAR was 1.5 higher than Freddie's. So I know a lot of people don't realize how good he is because he played out in Oakland, and fair enough. Who's staying up till 5 a.m. watching their ball games? But the kid can rake. The only question is going to be that first part of the season. I think he's going to struggle because he's going to want to live up to high expectations. What's your number 2?
Yeah, and if you take Hart out of it, it's a good business transaction all the way around for the Braves. Number 2, asterisk, like you said about them, the Cleveland Browns. They had to, the Baker thing, it didn't quite work out with word said and stuff like that. Fine. You somehow found a better quarterback. Now, can he play all the games, as you mentioned? We will see. But when Watson played last in 19, he put up phenomenal stats. He was a very accurate passer. His legs were awesome. His accuracy, everything was good. You add Amari Cooper to that mix, losing Landry. You upgraded again there. Cleveland Browns went from a team, to a very tough contender in that division. So I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Who you got, Tones?
I think this is the first team we all mentioned to this point, the Rangers. I mean, John Gray for 4 years. I think he could be a low end 1, top end 2. They brought back Martin Perez. Mitch Garver is a nice catcher who could have power in his bat.
I forgot about him. He hit 2 bombs in the same game the other day. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
And they barely gave up anything because they gave up Isaiah Kiner Falala or whatever, but they replaced him because Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and then they added guys like Brad Miller and Cole Calhoun to really bring depth to their outfield. Calhoun could hit home runs. Brad Miller could play a plethora of positions. Key thing for them, Marcus Semien, 7-year contract. Corey Seager, 10-year contract. They have Adolis Garcia, who's young. Those 3 guys right there are the heart and soul of this future lineup for the Rangers. That's a heck of a 3 guys to put your name in behind. I'm a big fan of what they're doing, like you guys said as well.
All right. My number 2, the Miami Dolphins. I think it's all been said. They would probably be number 1 because I do take into consideration a little bit of what the rest of your roster looks like. But I honestly am grading this off of what the moves that you made, right? And so if they had a better quarterback, I would be ready to go all in and say Dolphins number 1. But unless they get that figured out, I'm putting them at number 2 because you went and gave up a lot for a receiver. Will you be able to get him the ball other than on end arounds? So I'm going to put the Dolphins at number 2. Joey, what you got? Number 1, we got to make it quick.
Number 1, it's simple to me, even though people thought he'd come back. The GOAT, Tom Brady, returns, and so does all his friends from Jensen to Lenny F. You bring Gage over as a legitimate number 3 over the clown AB. What's next? Who we'll see. Maybe it'll be Gronk. Maybe it'll be Dominic Hung soon. But to me, Tampa Bay went from possibly rebuilding this thing to Boom. Top 3 contender, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, number 1.
Tones.
Yeah, I guess to piggyback off that, I got the Bucks number 1 as well. And just to add to what you said, yeah, newsflash, right?
I'm glad I was sitting down for that one.
I did it for you.
Tom Brady comes back. That's incredible. Then you get Godwin, Leonard Fournette, and Ryan Jensen to long-term deals, which is really nice, 3 years apiece. Russell Gage coming in as a solid number 3 quarterback. He could throw the football. He could run the football. Poor man's Deebo Samuel there. Shaq Mason, we get in a trade, ranked the number 4 guard in all of football last year, technically an upgrade over Alex Kappa. And then we re-signed guys like Will Golston, Aaron Stinney to help shore up the team. And then we also brought in Logan Ryan, who could play safety and cornerback, Super Bowl champion, had a pick 6 with the Titans to actually end Tom Brady's Patriots career. And the Bucks aren't done. Like you guys said, probably Gronk. They'll probably bring back more fellas as well. It's been a very exciting off season for the Super Bowl LV champs.
My number 1 team is the Toronto Blue Jays. What they've done, and I honestly, I'm going to make them the odds-on favorite in the American League East, and that's not an easy task.
Nope.
But when you look at this team, and you also look at what they brought in prior to, remember they added Jose Barrios, but it gets a little wonky because we had the free agency for like a month, and then there's 100 days off. Then we went back. So you kind of forget what all they did. But look, Kevin Gausman, that starting pitching is going to be nasty. And then when you look at the offense that this team is going to have, Bichette, Biggio, Guerrero, I mean, George Springer, they just had to trade Grichuk out of the team because he wasn't going to have at bats, and that's a solid player. Tapia is going to be a household name by midsummer. No one knows who he is because he plays in Colorado, but I've watched that kid play, and he is a utility knife that mainly plays outfield, but he can play all over. The speed on that kid. I mean, I feel like that they won that trade as well. So there you have it. If you want to see our rankings, they are in the timeline. I've been typing them out as we've been talking. So let's go ahead and get to it real quick. And this is why, Tons, I know you said you had 47 things you wanted to do, but I knew we were going to come up on time, so we got to do it real quick. The Thirsty Thursday belly up to the bar topic today is, you can go back in time and change one thing in sports history, and it could be anything, but you can only change one, right? We all would like to change about 48 things. I mean, I'd like to change everything that ended in wide right, but you can change one thing in all of sports, whether it's an outcome, a signing, a hiring, a firing, a rule, whatever you want to change in the history of sports. Tones, I'm going to start with you.
As much as I love my Bucks, I'm actually going with the NBA Chicago Bulls moment. It was shortly after, Derrick Rose in his glory MVP season. Literally nobody wanted to play this guy. And then in the playoffs, game 1 against Philadelphia 76ers in the 2011-2012 season, game 1, round 1, I'll never forget Derrick Rose tore his ACL. He was never the same. He had a falling out with the Bulls. The year after, he tried coming back. Well, he missed a whole year after the ACL. Then Derrick Rose tried coming back. Then he tore his meniscus after 10 games. It caused a domino effect. The Bulls were ready to win then. They had Joakim Noah in his prime. They had Luol Deng in his prime. They brought in veterans like Carlos Boozer, hired a coach like Tom Thibodeau. Derrick Rose was the MVP. And then after that, he just never averaged 20 points a game or even close to that in his career again. He continues to get hurt. He's been on 6 or 7 teams since his days with the Bulls. His brother got into his head a little bit. He made bad business decisions. Once everything was going right for the Bulls and Derrick Rose, it seemed like people here were comparing him, as crazy as it sounds. They were like, oh, this guy, we like him just as much as Michael Jordan. Then the injury happened and things came crashing and burning down. I think if that injury never happened, he would have at least had one championship here in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear you say that, because if I were going to change one thing in Bulls history, it would be to talk Michael Jordan out of retiring 2 times.
That is fair. That's not a bad one either. I mean, this is why it's tough. You know, this
What's
is
his
why
name? Jerry Reinsdorf talked that jackass into keeping the team together. I mean, look, I hated the Bulls because everybody. I'm always pulling against like the crowd favorite because
Right.
That's the American in me. Who the hell wants to pull for the favorite, right? But I mean, you don't tear that team apart. That was stupid. Stupid. Joey, what is your one thing?
My one thing, it sadly comes down to a player who wasn't even on this team long, but the 2009-2010 Super Bowl, Hank Baskett solely lost the Colts, Peyton Manning second as a Colt. You know, we had the first one against the Bears, a nice win. We're up at halftime. All the momentum's on the Indianapolis Colts side. What happens? We come out of half right to the up man and Hank Baskett. He bobbles the ball. Saints recover, go down and score. And really, ever since that, they had the momentum in a tight game until the pick six by Tracy Porter. It's a dagger in my side then. It made me weep then. It still makes me weep now. Hank Baskett, I don't know where you are, what you're doing, but I am not a fan of yours. And I can finally go on the record and say, you are the thing I want to change most in sports history, my friend. So if that's being number one for anything in your career, there you go. You ruined the Colts' second Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Thank you very much.
So I was born in 1973, in September of 73. And if I could do one thing over, it would be to be born 1 year earlier in 1972. Because as a young baby, toddling my way around, probably only a few months old at the time, I would have stopped the damn designated hitter rule to ever exist in the history of sports. It was voted on and passed in the winter of 72, put in the in 1973 as an experiment in American League Baseball. And of course, we all know the history. It never went away. And now we've got the designated hitter rule in every damn team, every league. Now there's no longer, there's not, I mean, I'm sure there's a random league somewhere, but high school, college, minor league, and now Major League Baseball, the pitcher will not hit for themselves. And it's a damn shame, because the biggest thing that I hate about that entire situation is it kills the strategy.
The league I coach, our pitchers hit, Mr. McGee.
Is this baseball? Is this softball?
It's baseball. It's a competitive baseball. It's high schoolers that aren't in high school, but it's a competitive league.
Gotcha. Well, yeah. And that's why I preface saying I'm sure there's a random league that, but I'm saying that like in organized leagues, it's gone. Mm-hmm. And it's a sad thing, because what I'm going to miss the most is when you have to decide that you're going to make a switch, a double switch, et cetera, et cetera. It kills the strategy of the game. So if I had one thing, it'd be to go back in time and tell my parents to get cracking about a year earlier.
If I could turn back time.
Oh my God. Just the stuff that could have been avoided if you never played around with the designated hitter rule.
Mm-hmm.
I wish one person would have gotten the me. What are you, idiots? What are we doing? And I blame Bill Veek as one of them, because he was one of the ones. He was one of the pioneers pushing that years and years and years ago. But anyways, now we're stuck with it, and I still would like to see an amendment to the rule in Major League Baseball. I think that when your starting pitcher comes out, you should lose the DH.
Ooh.
Because if you did that, it would, and I'm telling you right now, the players would gain from this. The pitchers would gain from this, because starting pitching would come back at a premium. They would gain this in the pocket, because you would no longer have Tampa Bay Rays, right? You would have a team of, dude, we need some starting pitchers, and we may even want to carry 6 or 7, so these guys can go as deep as we want them to, so that we get that advantage.
Baseball is slowly eliminating guys too, like lefty specialists were first, and now it's pinch hitters are now. Pretty soon, specialists of the game are going to be no longer.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and come to a close on this, as it's time to turn back time and do our walk-offs. On this date in 1980, so 42 years ago, the 42nd NCAA Men's Basketball Championship, Louisville takes down UCLA 59-54, the Cardinals' first of 2 national titles. Remember, they won again in 86, knocking out Mike Krzyzewski's Duke team. And also on this date, 2 years ago, in 2020, when I was on suicide watch, because it was, 10, 11 days after they canceled sports, Japan's Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, announces postponement of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and Paralympic Games. And you knew that was the beginning of the end. Birthdays!
It's your birthday today.
You know, I only do this anymore just to see Joey dance. I mean, honestly, that's all about. Dead guy first. Let's do the dead guy. George Harold Sisler, born in 1893, passed away in 1973 in March, so he kind of stopped it. I guess he was around to stop the damn pandemic. That's probably what killed him. George Sisler, one of the greatest players in the history of early baseball, lifetime batting average of 340, 2,800 hits, 102 home runs, and of course this was during the dead ball. Played for the St. Louis Browns, the Washington Senators, and the great Boston Braves. This also is the, let's see today, 46 years old, Mr. Peyton Manning. Tennessee volunteer, Denver Bronco, and he played for another team. I can't remember who it was. It was some terrible team in Indiana. But Super Bowl champion. And one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and of course, one of the greatest personalities in the NFL of all time. Will always be remembered as in my head, he's a Colt. I mean, he's obviously a volunteer for, but he's a Colt. I get it that he won with the Broncos, but he's a Colt. Walk-offs, Mr. Joey. We'll start with you.
Yeah, my walk-off's going to be 2 things. One, I had a lot of fun today. This is honestly one of the more fun episodes I had, breaking down all these, free agent signings, trades. That was awesome. Reliving a moment. Man, kudos to you. I love the topics today. It really got me thinking back in time especially. So this was a lot of fun. Hope we do something similar again. And number 2, I'll throw out a birthday. Happy birthday, Undertaker. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, everybody knows who the dead man, The Undertaker, is. He goes into the Hall of Fame this year, and it's his 57th birthday. Kudos, Mr. Undertaker.
Still with us?
He is still with us. Yes, sir.
Tones, what say you? Even I know the name. I don't know if I could pick him out in the lineup, but I know the name.
Exactly.
I had a lot of fun today as well, fellas. I think these Thirsty Thursdays are doing great. Then they're going to be Mac and Tones along with Stephen Trosh on the call on Thursday Night Baseball. So those will be a lot of fun. I'm a fan of Providence from here on out for March Madness. I hope Providence comes in and takes this dang thing. And another birthday, former Ohio State and Indianapolis Colt Mike Doss. So, we got some birthday shout outs going around, but really great episode, fellas. Go Providence, enjoy March Madness, and continue soaking up these free agency moves.
Yeah, my walk-off is, so I've got the call tomorrow, 1:00 Eastern, Braves Red Sox, and then we'll be back tomorrow. Justin and I at 6:00. We got some stuff planned for that. But I'm really looking forward to the upcoming season. The new schedule, I'm going to drop that just on opening week because I don't want to confuse people because we got the spring training schedule out right now. But the first game that we're going to do together, Tones and I believe Steven will be with us, is going to be opening night. It's in Atlanta, Reds versus Braves. The interesting fact about that game is for about a century and a half, Cincinnati has always been the first team to get first pitch in the opening day, whatever the traditional opening day is. And the only time that didn't happen was there was a it's something to do with a death, and I can't remember who it was because it wasn't JFK. Because JFK was assassinated in November. But anyways, it'll be the first time in quite some time that because of the lockout,
right?
We erased a week, and so it'll start in Atlanta, and then me and my wife are heading to Atlanta the next morning to
nice
in the game. So we'll do opening day, and then we'll be back to a normal schedule the following week. It'll be Tuesday nights and Friday nights with Atlanta, Thursday nights with the game of the week, and we got some good ones, Tones.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it between Braves, Cubs, White Sox, and the rest of the MLB. Honestly, it's going to be a really good year for baseball.
For that second game because it's Yankees versus Toronto.
That'll be an incredible one, and that whole division minus Baltimore should be a bloodbath.
And I'll be tuned into all Cubs games.
You'll be tuning into every game.
Well, every game I'm going to be in the chat. I was last year for the Braves playoffs.
You were.
Yeah, I was chatting it up with a lot of random guys from like Montana or something.
What I can't remember is I think the game's in New York, but when when the Yankees go to New York, when the Yankees go to Toronto, they're still going to be dealing with that vaccination deal that we talked about.
Oof.
All right, guys, great job. And
awesome.
We will see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, Justin and I, the Armchair Quarterback Show. And then also 1 o'clock Eastern, if you're bored at work, Braves and Red Sox, I'll have the call.
Goodbye, sweetheart, when it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart, goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Gonna get